Hello, it's Brad, Laurie, or BlockchainBrad, and today we have Jeff in the hot seat right now. He's the CEO of PCHAIN. That's right, for many, many months they've been working post-MainNet on their technology, and now it's time to really bring exactly what they've been doing to the fore, and the CEO is the best person to do that. So Jeff, thank you very much for your time today.
Thank you, Brad. Very nice to be here and very glad to give you some update about PCHAIN.
Likewise, mate. Now, for all of those who are wondering, and in the name of transparency and trust, this is entirely free. The idea here is obviously to provide all of us with key information so that we can be the most informed, and the best people to do that, I argue, are the team themselves. So Jeff, thank you very much for being here to provide what we need, which is information on your development. Now, you are all about being first in the sense of the first native multi-chain system utilizing your own EVM. We've talked at length about that in the past, but now that you've evolved, now that you have your mainnet well and truly in the past, talk us through what sets you apart, Jeff, so we know that you're making progress.
Yes, definitely. In last year, it's just a plan to have a multi-chain, the large-scale multi-chain system in the world. But nowadays, it's become the reality. We launched our mainnet in March of this year, and nowadays it's smoothly working over 8 months. And this demonstrates the capability and the scalability of knowledge. So this is quite important. And in last year, in our testnet, we test over 256 child chain in the meantime, and this showcased the capability of PCHAIN, what kind of scalability of the child chain or sharding or whatever you call it. But you know, some very another famous project, for example, Pogdo, they plan to support 100 parachain in the meantime. So I believe this is a very interesting direction, and more projects realized how important of this feature of this multi-chain, of this sharding. So we welcome all the projects to do the same thing or do the same research or develop direction with us. Right. So yes, somebody may told us that maybe are you afraid of competition with them? But from my point of view, we just ecosystem. Whatever a valuable direction, more and more projects adopt this direction, then it will be good for the whole ecosystem. So
right.
Yeah.
And Jeff, just to interject there as well, one of the reasons I always wanted to find out more about your project was because of the strength of connections you genuinely do have in China. You've made it clear that you are connected with the founding fathers of the blockchain industry in China. Now, you talked about Polkadot. Obviously, that's a key infrastructural endeavor and technology that's emerging now. We see the likes of things like NIA also with their own sharding technology come to the fore as well. And we see other scaling solutions. So just to be clear for everyone, would you argue that you represent an infrastructural technology? That in the sense of the layering that we hear in the narrative of layer 1, layer 2, essentially for improving infrastructural projects. Is that essentially what you are? Are you a layer 1 solution to help applications, support them and onboard them, given that you have your own EVM?
Yeah, definitely we are layer 1. That is, we have a main chain and we have a child chain, and the methodology of PCHAIN is very interesting because if you consider the security mechanism, is somewhat more like a cosmos, because every child chain need to ensure the security of your child chain, instead of get the confirmation or finality or the security in the main chain, right, or in the mother chain or something like that. Right. But from another point of view, if you consider the interaction between the child chain and the main chain, you may say that it's somewhat more like a Pogdo. Pogdo, because it can allow the seamless, instead of a hub, between the child chain and the main chain. We don't have hub, but we can allow you to have an interaction or interoperability between the child chain and the main chain.
Right.
But so it's very interesting architecture, but we believe this kind of architecture is very useful in many of the case. Because another direction maybe I can told you that is at the very beginning we just consider the multi-chain, we consider child chain, but nowadays because we have a lot of effort in China environment or China market, we observe that there are more and more requirements from the company, from the government in China. But nowadays they require us to build a alliance chain, or even sometimes it's private chain. But someday they may require this kind of alliance chain or a private chain to be connect with the public chain.
Right.
So from this point of view, it's very interesting that our child chain can be like a commercial child chain. Sometimes we use commercial child chain. We can build an alliance chain or build a private chain for enterprise in China or in the worldwide. And at the very beginning, maybe you don't want to connect with this commercial child chain with the public chain.
Right, and we're also seeing, just to jump in there, we're also seeing the likes of this happening with Ontology, for example, with their collaboration with private and permission systems. Obviously, that's the preference of the government in your region. But yes. I want to pull it back to your tech for a moment. Now, with regard to on-chain capacity, often, we exhaust, we in the traditional sense, if you look at Ethereum, for example, the on-chain capacity, because you can't essentially break things down into clusters, and allow for less computational pressure. Now, my understanding is the way you set up your consensus, the way that you've done the entire node system, you reduce the pressure on the computation, but by doing the child chains, you have a more vast series of nodes across a broader network. So how is that building? How is the infrastructure today since we spoke?
Yes, in fact, we provide a group of SDK to allow you to do these kind of things. For example, we can allow you to create a child chain by yourself. If you deposit some PCHAIN token, then you can create a child chain and invite more and more validator into your child chain. So this is what Pacto plan to do, but we already have this kind of function. We call it one click to create a child chain or something like that.
Okay.
So if you connect the Pi in the market, and then you can start this new child chain smoothly. And the more important, more interesting part is once this child chain is created, it can have the mechanism to interact with the main chain. You don't have to do anything. All this kind of built inside. And what is also very interesting that this kind of work attract more and more attention recently, because as I said, many enterprises in China that begin to look at this kind of solution. So we just are very lucky to have this kind of mechanism. And more important is we are not just doing this in the consensus level, in consensus algorithms level, but we support this kind of job. We need to do more underlying technology, for example, in P2P layer. P2P is the underlying network layer to allow to the different node to exchange message. Right. Yes. But traditionally P2P network just one P2P network in the whole blockchain environment or system or platform. But you may observe there will be some problem if we have the child chain, especially when the number of child chain increase too much, because you can imagine that in most of the case, the message just need to negotiate or communicate inside child chain, right? They don't need to broadcast to another child chain or even broadcast to the main chain, right? But sometimes they need to negotiate. They need to transfer this message to the main chain, to the other child chain. So we need to do some innovation in P2P layer to allow you to, whenever you want to deliver the message inside of child chain, you can do this. Whenever you want to send a message to another child chain or set to main chain, you can do this.
Yes,
So
and that's why I want to talk
innovation,
to you, because if you can already do that, firstly, you don't have to have that duplication. You don't have to have that appropriation across the entire network, so everything's a carbon copy of each other. And that's the reason
yeah,
why you're focused on these child chains. And then that, your base chain does, that very skeletal sort of,
yes,
only the fundamentals.
correct, to reduce the communication cost,
Yes.
communication price. And another very important part is about confirmation. Confirmation, that is a finality. Finality sometimes, in fact, we adopt a very interesting technology, that is, even though we don't achieve the finalization in the main chain, that is, each child chain they achieve the consensus or achieve the finality inside of it. But more important is, whenever we have an epoch update, then
Yes.
any child chain need to give a snapshot to the main chain. So it's somewhat like provide a security in the main chain through this kind of trade-off. We don't need to get any block to be confirmed in the main chain, but whenever there are epoch change, we get some snapshot in the main chain. So
Yes, I was really into that, and it's quite an innovative way to provide that extra layer of security on a time basis. You have you have one coming up on the 8th of December, I think, for the next epoch. So, how frequent are they, those snapshots?
Epoch, we switch one epoch in 1 month.
Yeah, so they're monthly. Okay, and that's good. Will that change, do you think, in the future, or is that working well in terms of the way in which you're maintaining it?
Correct. In fact, we continue update our mainnet. It's not just the mainnet launch, then we don't do anything. We just calculate that we made around 23 updates after the mainnet launch. So we continue optimization, get the new mechanism, and make the whole system more stable. We continue to do this kind of job.
That's good news. Now, I really want to talk to you about something that many of the other teams you mentioned can't yet, Jeff, and that is evidence of applications, evidence of use case. Because one of the rare privileges I have talking to you is that you've had the MainNet operating for many, many months now. Now, in the more speculative sense, that may not be sexy to the speculator in the crypto casino, but for a technologist and for someone looking for innovation in the blockchain arena, this is a big deal, because you can start to prove that it's more than just that consensus, more than just starting and creating the technology, but having that subsequent mainnet success and now obviously hopefully having proof in China to start. You can then, perhaps have pole position when it comes to, once again, an application proof. So let's talk about that. How much evidence have you got to show us that the tech is actually doing stuff and providing value for people outside of the scope of your technology and your team?
Yes, we got a lot of partnership and a commercial deal. And some of them I cannot declare it because the NDA, but some of them we already announced. For example, we have a partnership with CFCA, the China Federation of CA or something like that. But the most important thing is, over 98% banks adopted the CA technology of this company. So in addition, this company also belongs to the central bank. So it's a huge deal for us. But even though we don't get any profit from it, but I think this is evident that how PCHAIN technology, the advance of the technology in PCHAIN, and this kind of organization, they respect it. They want to use the PCHAIN technology. So given this kind of partnership, it's the best proof how advanced of PCHAIN. And also we get some lending. For example, we already launched the first child chain in May, if I'm not wrong. That is, we contract with and develop a private chain based on the commercial child chain technology with a taxi company in China, which is the top level company in China. And more cases are ongoing. And we also even to do some combination between blockchain and the data. We call it smart data. We have this kind of strategy. Somebody told us that your smart data didn't get too much progress, but nowadays the smart data, the data issue, the big data issue become very serious, especially in China. Many big data company, they got some problem because the privacy issue, because the data, the copyright of the data need to be authorized. So it's another very huge additional market for PCHAIN,
right.
because it's PCHAIN not just for blockchain, but to combine the blockchain with the data.
And that you raise a good point, and obviously there's a lot more attention in China right now with that
Exactly.
pro-blockchain stance, with the president coming out and saying we are here as a country to innovate. That must have been music to your ears, knowing that you have built technology to really uplift the potentials of this industry, of this technology. Now, I want to find out more though about revenues. I want to find out exactly what the nature is between PCHAIN and a potential business that you can do with these interested parties, because you mentioned that in some instances you're not making profit, but for those people who supported your pre-utility, they need to know that there's a future for that utility token, and they also need to know that there's potential for your business to grow from an equity standpoint, perhaps, if that's what you're doing, or even just more generally to know that there's money flowing in.
Oh, definitely. We will have a more and more application based on PCHAIN technology. This is for sure. And with some enterprise, big or small, or even with some government, it's still ongoing. I totally understand that people really want us to get some more revenue or get some more new contract to use the PCHAIN technology. I totally understand, but it still takes time, because I believe this may be another very interesting topic you want to discuss, that what happens in China market. Right. So China market is very interesting. That is, we have our president Xi to launch the blockchain strategy in national level. It's not just a strategy. In fact, every government, every level, they begin to study blockchain technology, and they need to consider to think how to combine, how to use blockchain technology in their environment, in their scenario, in their daily life. So it's a huge market, huge market. China government is not maybe the first country in the world to push the blockchain technology as the national level strategy. So it's not just in the central government, but in different level of government, they begin to study this. So I got a call recently, daily and the light. Many people consult me. Doctors, how can you share me your experience and come here? We can pay you to talk about your technology, to talk about the scenario. So, but I think this is the big strategy and the whole environment. But still it takes time, because especially in government, they need to, their plan is not by monthly, not by quarterly, but their plan is
well Jeff, it's exciting to hear what you're saying, because really we're just at the beginning of many innings, if we use that analogy, of the future of blockchain, especially in China, where they have proven they're progressive. They want to lead the way in the world and have that foothold and that pole position as they move forward. But let's move back to you though. Now, let's look at the time, sort of the roadmap up until now. You have launched. There was a lot of hype at the beginning when you had your raise, and now you've had some of that key point of time to start to build in that arena of functionality, operations, experiment a bit with some of the parties that are of interest, even before this popularization of blockchain led by the president, led by Xi. So we still, if you assume that I'm one of the investors for a moment, or I'm one of the people who supported PCHAIN from the outset, clearly those people want to see, continued developments, even though it's early days. This should still be something that's progressive. It's something that should be escalating. So is that what's happening? That's what we're trying to find out, I think, as a community. How is that correlation of revenue, of business and token? It's really important we understand that.
Yes, totally understand. In fact, we just launched the second update plan. We will come to the C stage. That is, we have a new smart data reduction and the new delegation mechanism as our plan. And also, we will have a, maybe it's not in the mainchain level, but in the wallet level, we will have a PIBNB to PI back swap. So we develop this kind of technology. So the one of the key technology for one of the update about key technology, we continue made progress in this level. And on another level is, as you mentioned, that is we have more and more partnership, and we have a more collaboration with the enterprise. Some of them is ongoing, some of them with NDA, but I think you can expect more and more announcement in maybe a few months.
I see.
To give you updates what we achieved with this kind of enterprise and with the data side. In fact, it's not just the one or two enterprise. We have many ongoing, but sometimes to B is somewhat different from to C. So have many consideration. We do have many. Sometimes is maybe a little sensitive. For example, another issue I can demonstrate how popular of our technology in China. That is, I got a lot of invitation to give a blockchain technology knowledge sharing or experience sharing, to case study sharing or something like that. I will fly to the Hainan province in the next week, and over 100 officer or the leader in bank, they will hear the update of us, how we can combine our technology with the banking, with the banking environment.
Right.
So
just to interrupt you there, you mentioned Hainan. Now they are, quite unique as a province in China compared to most in terms of, being pro-crypto, arguably. But on that note, I wanted to ask you about China and whether or not you think that they are pro-crypto, because that's a very different thing. So in the light of having a utility token that you have, what's the position from the top down with regard to tokenized economies outside of the scope and potential of blockchain? Is it something that are you concerned about? Is it something that you can be public about in China and certainly do business with?
For token, it's still a little sensitive.
Right.
Frankly speaking, for token, it's still very sensitive. But because the blockchain become the national strategy, so I think that the good issue is more and more officer or more and more people from government, they realize how important of this technology. Previously, if we talk with government, it's only because my personal relationship, because they trust me, they believe, okay, Dr. Cao, you are a good person, you are a good person, you are a good guy, you don't shame, you don't play trick with us, so we can allow you to do this. But nowadays the situation changed, because they want to know the technology. So they, if I talk with people about blockchain technology, they don't no longer to believe it's just in a future things. But nowadays they realize, okay, this is the right time to study this kind of technology.
Right. So there's a future potentially
so the whole
for
utility.
utility.
Yes, much better for us to improve our BD, to collaborate with
and that's going to be so important for your utility token to have real merit and real interaction.
Yes, but one thing I need to highlight that still the crypto or the token is very sensitive in China.
Yes, and I totally respect that, and I appreciate that. Thank you for that transparency. Now, what about your plans for equity? Because obviously you're building revenue, you've made that clear, and you're also trying to introduce the technology to various private entities and parties.
In fact, this is a very interesting part, because as we mentioned that we have a commercial child chain, right? But even inside commercial child chain, we have a token inside of it. But to better utilize this kind of technology, we need to acquire or get some token from the public market. We get something. So we still need to negotiate with our lawyer how to make the whole process smoothly. That is, for example, maybe we need to pay some license fee or something like that to the foundation, and then foundation can get some token from the market. And but we need to make the whole process more smoothly, especially in the legal side.
Okay.
But the general idea is to get some license fee to get the
revenue,
the community get benefit through the if we have this kind of technology.
I see. So there's obviously plans ahead, which the community, especially those who are those pre-utility investors, you know, they would need to know, because now they would expect that your ecosystem starts to really expand, given that you well and truly are post mainnet. Now let's talk about some of the key features beyond the tech, because, you know, if we had time, we talk more about your PDBFT. But again, that's the underlying technology. So if people want to know more, they can go to those resources you have, and they can explore the smart contract system, the data and cross-chain information. But it's still those use cases. I think that's where we really want to go with you today, articulating clear verticals. You mentioned things like distributed AI, supply chain, records, gaming, notary systems, and the list goes on, you know, for traceability as well. So where are the fields, where are the areas where already there's proof of interest and proof of uptake and proof of adoption for PCHAIN?
In fact, for the supply chain, it's very interesting, and you know, I'm still the chief scientist of China Federation of Logistic and Purchasing Blockchain Community or Association, and nowadays the supply chain is become the huge market and maybe the biggest market in blockchain adoption in China, and we will have the third year gathering or event in Shenzhen in early of December, and I also invite to be there to share our experience about how to adopt blockchain technology and how to combine this with the supply chain. So given our practice, that is, you know, because we in the last 18 months, we mainly focus on our MainNet technology and underlying technology, but nowadays we have a more capability to doing the application level things. So we already get many requirements from supply chain enterprise. They get a lot of interest in this technology, because, you know, sometimes you need to integrate with some IoT device to get the data sources and store into PCHAIN smart data mechanism, and allow you to do some smart contract computation to get some for example insurance or something like that. And especially for insurance, quite interesting, because, you know, previously different parties, they have their own data, but they don't want to share each other.
Right, and that's where the blockchain comes in, because it can break those silos down. But I wanted to ask you, inside your team, is there a designated team that works with these private entities to help bridge the gap, to help make it so that they can onboard blockchain, benefits of blockchain?
Definitely, we already built a very small team for the enterprise, especially to adopt PCHAIN technology. But we plan to enrich this department if we get more requirement or get more cases from the market.
I see. So right. Well, that's good to know, because we want to see that continuation of growth. With regard to the PCHAIN staking, that was one thing that's going to affect your supply. It's quite innovative. Everyone in your Telegram seems to be talking about it and seems to be excited, because let's be frank about this. What it can do to price is real, and you can't speculate on that, I know, but I will say that it tends to, you know, affect price, because what staking does in terms of basically removing it from supply. So talk us through exactly the plan that you've built in for this season of staking, as we call it, and the significant amount that's planned for staking.
Yes. Staking is another very interesting direction, because previously when we launch our technology, our white paper, we don't write this in our white paper. But in fact, this part of it, because it's our PDBFT is a kind of proof of stake. So we need to have this kind of mechanism inside of it. So it's natural. We happening to have this kind of technology, and the staking become a very hot topic in this year. And another interesting part is different from many chain with just one child chain or one main chain. We can have a multi-chain in the same time. So in each child chain we can have the staking as well. So this is another interesting part. We haven't got time to push
so that's
forward,
almost like customized staking, you know, it's independent staking built in.
So this is make the whole system more natural, and make the whole system have the mechanism inside of it.
Well, to not complicate things, let's focus though on what you are doing with the staking. Now, with the model, you have mining reward system built in. What's the process here? How is the model designed so that we better understand what the rewards are for the people?
Yes. I think one of the key advantage of PCHAIN is the price, or the machine to be rent to do the post mining is very cheap. It's only require you around $77 per month to launch this kind of machine. So it's very cheap comparing with many other projects. They maybe require you to pay around 1,000 or even higher number of US dollar to rent a machine to do the post mining. So this is one part. Another part is whenever you're staking, you can stake just as yourself. Another is you can allow somebody to delegate with you. And whenever you have the delegator, you can attract more people to delegate with you, and you can get the transaction fee as well, commission fee, sorry. You can get a commission fee as well. So through this kind of job, then more and more people, they realize they can do this kind of delegation, and they require more and more fans to be delegated to them.
I was actually reading into this. Now, for someone to be a validator on the network, you know, to run a node, to be a candidate, as you call it, there's a minimum requirement of 100,000 tokens, I think.
Yes.
So that was very clear, and people can go and read up on that. And then for the minimum of 1,000 tokens, you can then be that delegate. You can delegate to a candidate, essentially. So talk us through those numbers, why you chose that, and what it means for, you know, those who perhaps are interested in those roles of delegator or of a candidate, more importantly, in terms of revenue.
Yes, in fact, if we have more and more token to be acquired or buy in the market and become a part of the post mining or staking, then they make the whole token inside of market become less and less. This is very important for the price,
because it increases scarcity.
Correct. This is one side. Another side is because more and more token is staking inside of the network become more and more stable, and the security of network become more and more better because more and more token are inside of it, and then everybody maybe care about the stability or the performance of the network of your node. Because for example, if you have the node run in the system and then it continue offline, then you cannot get any reward, then it's a loss for you. So you need to pay more attention to the node you run. So this is
And in many ways, people are looking for that reward as a key incentive to stake. That's the driver of value. Now, 317 million. Now, that's a big number. In the broader scheme of your whole supply, can we talk about what you envision in terms of how it will affect, you know, the overall the current circulating supply if things go to plan with your staking model and the roadmap for staking?
Yes, I think it's the whole token economics is well connected. If the price of PCHAIN going on raise up, and then more and more people will buy it, and whenever they buy it, they will say, oh, I cannot just put it here because it's some of the inflation. Then I need to do delegation, and then the token is locked inside of it. So this is like this. So we hope, but on the other hand, because more and more token is mining out, so you still get the opportunity to get some supply in the market. So we hope to achieve some balance of it. And another very interesting mechanism we designed for PCHAIN is similar with Bitcoin. We will have every 4 years.
I see.
So through this is another mechanism we haven't used it, but now this is already the first year of PCHAIN, and just 2 years, then you may find the first half of PCHAIN. Then you can expect what happens in PCHAIN as well.
So talk us through that, because often we hear the term burning, for example. We saw Stellar recently do that. Is that the kind of play for PCHAIN with the approaches you're making to halvening, every 4 years, with regard to, again, further reducing that overall supply, increasing scarcity even more, thus attracting more attention into an ever decreasing number of digital assets. So
yes.
So what's the plan there in terms of, what's the process for this halvening? Is that just built in mechanistically? Is that just going to be automated?
It's already built inside. It's already built inside. Every 4 years it will be halved.
Okay. So what of utility? If you're going to increase scarcity and you're really going to incentivize staking and securing the network, how do you then also encourage utility if you're continuing to reduce the circulating supply for utility?
Okay, this is another interesting part, because some projects maybe they will design 2 tokens for this. And for us, the main usage of the token for PCHAIN is like gas in the smart contract. And even because the price of PCHAIN is still very low, and many enterprise, they realize that, and they begin to utilize PCHAIN to move to use as a to made some hashi to store inside of PCHAIN MainNet. I cannot declare the name of this enterprise, but the CTO of this enterprise, they told me that previously they use Ethereum to this kind of job. But after study, they found that PCHAIN, you can support EVM directly, so and the price of PCHAIN much lower than Ethereum, and the performance of
fees.
the performance PCHAIN is much better, so they begin to move from Ethereum to PCHAIN.
Okay. Now, what's interesting also is that currently, from my understanding, is that you have 81 nodes. Built in, you have 13 nodes. I mean, please correct me if I'm wrong, and growing that number with child chains.
15.
So 15, my apologies. Now, how easy is it to continue those numbers, to increase that, given that when you started, you didn't have those numbers? That's been improving. Are you on the right trajectory to make sure you are properly distributed?
Yeah, definitely. Because I think at the very beginning of PCHAIN, the token is quite distributed, because we, even in the very beginning of private sale, we just keep the quota of PCHAIN very small to each participant or each users. So it's quite distributed at the very beginning. And nowadays you can see that it's already go to the second layer market, and it become further distributed. So from this point of view, we are very confident that it's not that centralized, especially comparing with some other blockchain system or platform, for example, EOS. Even no matter how distributed, only have a 21 super node, right?
Exactly, but and that's why I wanted to ask you, because also with the likes of Neo, they're really struggling, on their own to try and expand their own.
Yes, it's somewhat too centralized. And another interesting part of PCHAIN is we can support around 150 validators in the meantime in just one child chain or main chain. So, and we can have more and more child chains. So you can imagine that the validator or the post mining node can be increased linearly with the number of child chain increase.
That's good.
So through this kind of mechanism design or the algorithm design, the centralized problem is not a problem for PCHAIN.
Mm-hmm.
But on the other hand, this is not in technology level, but maybe in the community level or in the holder of PCHAIN level. Then maybe we need to do some mechanism to avoid the centralized problem, because sometimes if you like it, then you will bought a lot of token from the market. We don't hope somebody to have too much of PCHAIN token.
Well, it's interesting you say that, because I was going to ask you about this later, but this is a perfect segue. Now, one of the things you definitely had was a risk in the beginning because of the VCs. You had a few number of VCs relatively, with large stakes in the token. What we tended to see based on the evidence is a likely dump, which is, pretty commonplace across the board, not just with PCHAIN.
Yes.
Now, that means that you've had a greater distribution of the token since we even last spoke, which would suggest that there's a less likelihood of that risk of attack, or even of, significant whales dictating or the outcomes of PCHAIN. So are you also, with your team, monitoring this kind of thing? Are you trying to, with the best of your ability, to oversee the distribution and the widespread use and even, dare I say, investment across the globe, so that we can, be sure that it's no longer held by a few?
Yes, I think this is quite important. But this is a free market, so we cannot control everybody what they think. And another thing I can share with you, that for the early investor or early participant of PCHAIN, there are two kind of people, two kind of token funds. Some of token funds, as far as I know, they already sell all the token they have.
Exactly.
But on another, for some other token fund, they even don't move any token of them. Mm-hmm. So they have a fully confidence of PCHAIN, and even they bought more token in the market.
Wow, that's really amazing, considering the price difference from when they essentially invested in your pre-utility phase to now, given that the price has fallen so much. And I do really want to talk to you about that price and that token later. But let's move across very quickly to DeFi. Now, we hear Ethereum, really utilizing that term very successfully. But if we look at the fundamentals of what it means, it's about financial, potential of technology. So do you think that you're part of this, given that you have the real verticals available to you, such as financial security, such as commercial child chains, as you mentioned? Are you part of DeFi?
Definitely. When we talk about DeFi, there, in many of cases, just three kind of things. The first is about stablecoin. The second is about staking. Sometimes we will talk staking as well, part of the DeFi. And the third is about the lending, and the fourth maybe the DX or something like that. Mm-hmm. So for the stablecoin, we already collaborate with stablecoin, and we already proved the capability of PCHAIN to them. And then we just need some more time to make this announcement sooner or later. Mm-hmm. And about staking, we already talk a lot about staking. About DX, in fact, DX, from my point of view, is not just a technology problem. It's more like a operation or marketing problem.
Right.
Yes, given the technology capability, but frankly speaking, we are still use some resources. We have some researchers to do this kind of direction, but we need to consider how it can be moved forward, because we don't want to. But maybe we can just showcase this kind of DX can be run in PCHAIN, but we will not do the operation, because it's somewhat different from the strategy of PCHAIN at least.
Yeah, you could outsource that aspect of it for sure. Right. But it is good to know that you're also subsumed in this movement, because it is such a prominent value proposition for the future of what everyone's striving for, and that is to innovate and to essentially enable new ways to consume, new ways to use technology that gives us more autonomy. Team-wise, when we spoke, you were building your team. Has that team changed at all? Has it expanded? Has it contracted? And what's going on in terms of the current situation with the PCHAIN team?
For PCHAIN team, we get some key developer and the team. We also hiring some people for the marketing, for the operation, and some developer they left. I think this is quite common, especially when the job already done. For example, I'm the developer of for example, storage, and the storage already done, then maybe I will left or get some rest or something. So it's quite common for the blockchain team. But maybe PCHAIN is the most stable team in this area because most of the colleague or our team member, they already become the colleague with me for over 3 years or even longer.
Okay.
And yes, so we are very relative stable team in this environment. But nowadays, because the whole environment changed a lot, as I mentioned, we also considered about collaboration with the enterprise, and we may have a new department to do this kind of job. And we also consider, because we talk a lot, I think we take a lot of time to talk about commercial child chain to adopt the PCHAIN technology in the enterprise level. But on the other hand, we still keep attention on the C level, on the client level, or in the enterprise or the app level. So this direction, even though we don't made too much voice in this direction, but this direction we're still in the radar.
I see. Well, it's good to know that you've retained much of your team, and even though you've had some move out and some come back in, but how are you paying them? Because I hope you don't mind if I be frank about this. I've seen many teams not be willing or forthright to talk about how they use their tokens to essentially support the team as they build for increasing revenue, increasing business. So are you utilizing the token as also some means of payment in the context of utility? Because in an unregulated environment, people are doing all kinds of things. How are you sustaining your team to continue to build towards the future with PCHAIN?
Oh, I see. I think sometimes you need some truly believer, because the payment or the revenue or the payroll is just one thing.
Right.
For example, for me, I can get a lot of money if I doing something else.
Yeah.
Especially in current stage, because I cannot get too much money from PCHAIN, right?
At the moment. Sure.
Yes, at the current moment. But I think it's not just me, but also our CTO, our architecture, our chief scientist, and our partner. Many of them they believe the future of PCHAIN, so they can accept that.
I see. So they've all taken a pay cut. So that's interesting to know.
Yeah.
Obviously,
they believe the future.
Right, and obviously they believe in the future of PCHAIN. That's important, and that means that they would also believe in the future of the token.
Yes, and also many of our community admin, they get very little token no matter in US dollar or in PCHAIN token, they got too much, but they still very Ethereum for they really pay a lot of attention, or they really work very hard for PCHAIN as well.
Okay.
So I think we need this kind of truly believer for PCHAIN, and if you don't believe it, maybe you can left.
Got it. Okay, and obviously built-in lockups and also for your team that's longer typically than even your investors, and I know you did that. With regard to the repos with the activity of your GitHub, is that always active? Is that being sustained right the way through? If I went and checked now.
Definitely, you can check it. We got a lot of updates, especially as I mentioned, we made 23 updates after the MainNet launch. So just 7 months. So every month we get at least 3 or 4 updates. Not just the code updating, it's the little update of the MainNet.
Okay. So if there was an audit also done, Jeff, where I could assess that you're starting to make money, would it all be transparent? I mean, are you getting to that point now where you're operating like a business and you can start to showcase yet some of the successes of the trials, some of the successes of the applications and all the work you're doing to try and get the attention of these startups or these in the private sector more generally?
Yeah, definitely. If we get some new partnership or some new enterprise adopt PCHAIN to build some environmental solution, definitely we will make this transparent.
And Jeff,
We
is it a
need to.
case of when, not if? Because it sounds like from what you've said before, you know it's not about if, but it's actually going to happen. You just haven't told
Yeah,
me because you can't.
yeah, definitely.
Okay.
It's for sure. It's not just the if.
Yeah. Yeah, that's what I wanted to find out. Now, the roadmap itself, you
Because we
had.
already, yes, because we already engage a lot. But when we talk about enterprise, it's totally different from the for the to C. To B is totally different from to C. So it's much more complicated, and sometimes even though you made a partnership, you made something happen, but you cannot declare if not the two party agree.
I
So
see.
whenever we make an announcement, then we need to make two party agree, then we can do that.
Okay, so sometimes you can make deals, but you can't tell us, which is interesting. Now, at the moment, you're at the ocean stage, I think, of your roadmap. What does that mean in terms of the key things you want to sort of hit or the milestones you want to achieve right now in this phase of
Yes.
development?
Yes, we in the C. In fact, we will have the C phrase or stage update in December, and the main, as I said, the main update is about the smart data reduction and the new delegation mechanism. But this is somewhat different from the stage we defined in our white paper, because the environment changed a lot. Previously, we mainly focus on the knowledge graph or the smart data for knowledge graph. But nowadays, we change it from smart data knowledge graph to smart data reduction, because we believe this is a more function with higher priority, because the TPS of PCHAIN grows too much, so the storage is a huge problem for PCHAIN. And also the storage will be a problem for our commercial child chain. So that's why we change a little.
Focus on reducing that issue.
Yeah, correct. But another important thing is about cross-chain, because in our previous plan, we will have a cross-chain with Ethereum and a cross-chain with BCH. But BCH needs some, they get some different situations. So the BCH is not the first priority. Instead, we will have the PIBNB, that is the balance chain in the first priority. So we will have the balance chain PI to PIBNB swap in the two direction maybe in the end of this month. Okay. So even though we made some slight adjustment, but in the whole point of view, that is we are still in the roadmap of our white paper. Right. And the more important is, even though we don't define the roadmap or the plan in 2020s, right? Because our white paper just write the plan in this year, but still we'll make the whole roadmap plan in the 2020 before the end of this year or in the early of the 2020.
Got it. Well, it's good to know that you're on track, because obviously we want to make sure as you progress. Now, here's a tough question, and this is with regard to your tokens themselves. We've already discussed the risks of exchanges dumping, and you've addressed that issue. Some of the names that come up are the likes of Block VC, JRR Crypto, FBG, Talk, and the list goes on. Now, within the context of some of those VCs, no question, some of them have dumped. You're suggesting that not all of them did, and that some are there for the long term. So that's good. But with regard to the token, let's discuss the current price. It's quite low compared to, let's say, the all-time high, of 20 cents, compared to now at 0.0046 or 5. Now that's substantially different. So I want to, hit this right on the head, and get this straight from you. Are we at the bottom of the pit? Because if I'm someone who's an investor, it looks pretty dismal, not understanding why there's been this consistent, decline in value. Now, and I'm talking this pragmatically, because you can't speak at the price. Do you think, given all the mechanisms you're building that support the infrastructure and the community, and even the modeling to uplift utility and staking, Is that all going to, provide for a better future for your token?
Yeah, definitely. I always, because previously I don't want to comment about price because it's totally marketing situation or marketing behavior, and we don't predict about the price.
Right.
But nowadays I begin to reply like that. Yes. That is, sometimes price is somewhat different from value, right? So in most of cases, if you have a higher value, you will have a higher price. But sometimes you can find that the price is not reflected with the true value. Sometimes
certainly in crypto, Jeff. Definitely in crypto.
Yes. So you can see the similar things happens to Bitcoin or Ethereum. Yes. At the very beginning, is very cheap, very cheap. Then it is growing very fast, and sometimes it become more and more cheaper. But you can find that the technology or the value of Bitcoin or Ethereum never change, because especially for Bitcoin, they didn't make too much technology development.
Exactly.
Yes, because from my point of view, the key value or the true value of project or blockchain is the technology inside of it. This is the source of the true value. Then you can image whatever solution, whatever application, and then. But if you don't have the really innovative mechanism or innovative algorithm inside of it, then it's just a normal thing.
It's just a speculative coin in that sense. But that's why it's interesting that you've also employed these mechanisms that aren't just for the technology, but they also afford for interest from the speculative sense and also the community, because staking does attract attention when it comes to prospective value and also prospective price. Those two tend to not necessarily correlate, but they do certainly grab the attention of those who are looking for an asset. So do you think that your token can actually emerge as a digital asset for the future with all the different things you're doing technologically and also mechanistically in terms of token design?
Definitely, I have the confidence. Otherwise, I will give up and left the PCHAIN, right? I'm still there.
You're still here.
Still get the confidence.
Yes.
I have fully confidence that because we really get very advanced technology, and the whole and one of the big things for us to make more and more people realize that.
Yes, and I think you're doing so.
Another interesting part, maybe I can share with you, that is, President Xi, they ask every officer to learn about blockchain, right? And another interesting part is whenever these kind of officers, they want to study blockchain, different from our professional people, they will read some professional book or something like that. They don't have this kind of computer science, technology, or science or background. So they will read some other book. And a very important book is published by the People's Daily. People's Daily is the #1 medium to represent officers' thinking or something like that. They write a book named Blockchain for Officers. Something. Yes.
Right.
And I'm one of the authors.
Oh wow! So once again, it just cements your.
So many officers they read this book and then they contact with me. Okay, can you share with us your blockchain with blockchain? So
right.
This is
now you're bragging, Jeff. We know that you are. We know that you're have an esteemed position in China. You've always made that clear. But what about liquidity? Because I had a look at your exchanges and everything like that. How important is it to have a scenario where you have strong liquidity?
Yeah. But you can check Gate. We launched in Gate maybe in the day before yesterday.
Okay.
So a new exchange. Yesterday official launch. Yes, and there are many the liquidity of PCHAIN, especially in the native token, get a lot of attention. Yeah. It's no longer, from my point of view, already resolve a lot of problems.
Well, that's good to hear.
But definitely Gate is not the final exchanges for PCHAIN. We will have more.
So you have some exchanges under your sleeve that you have them prepped.
We always achieve what we said. We don't say too much, But whenever we said we will have a new exchanges, it will be for sure.
Absolutely. Now, clearly, that's going to be important
to
have increasing liquidity.
Yeah, maybe let me summarize. We have a Upbit, Bitsum, Bittrex, CoinSuper, Gate. 5. We have 5 new exchanges for PCHAIN.
Right,
this year.
And that's allowing, that means that translates to increasing liquidity. But there's some that you didn't mention in there that are very well known, and you know exactly where I'm going with this. And given your connections and the fact some of these, also have connections in China, can we reasonably expect that some of these very reputable exchanges are also going to be part of PCHAIN's future?
I can just say that is for sure.
Okay.
Okay.
Well, I appreciate that. Now, just to finish off, Jeff, 2020 paints a picture for PCHAIN. We're not far, away from that period of time. What do you see, given that you've been building the MainNet and beyond now for some time? What's going to happen, do you think, for the value of PCHAIN as a technology?
Maybe let me repeat your question. That is, what's your mean? The value of PCHAIN?
Yeah, well, just no. In terms of the technology, what do you see? What do you foresee for 2020? If you can, imagine, given all of the things you're building towards that time, what do you see play out in terms of expansion of the network, development of the technology? What's the big picture for 2020?
I see. We hope to have a more and more commercial child chain based on PCHAIN technology, and we will have a more application or the app on PCHAIN as well. But the app is quite different because even for Ethereum or some other platform, the number of the app, especially actually the app is growing
fast.
Yeah. So this is maybe is a choice for us, but maybe our by current point of view, maybe just the commercial child chain will be the focus of PCHAIN.
I see. And obviously that's because, blockchain in China tends to lean towards that direction, and also quality. Doesn't matter if you have a lot of applications, the quality has to be there and the future of them has to be there as well. So big things planned clearly for 2020. Jeff, thank you so much for your time today, because we've covered a lot. We looked at the social dynamics, we looked at your roadmap in terms of hitting targets. The staking's a really big thing. The fact that you have that halvening every 4 years as well, that's significant for the longevity of the space. But finally, marketing. Are you also going to employ an aggressive marketing strategy now that you started to emerge with some more exchanges, the strategy with the staking? Will that couple with more aggressive marketing to support more attention?
Yes, for marketing, I think you need to be considered the whole environment as well. Because, for example, recently the price of Bitcoin dropped a lot.
It did.
So we cannot, no matter how much marketing you're doing, it's no use.
Because we're not yet decoupled. Why not, Jeff? Why aren't we decoupled from Bitcoin?
Okay, we decoupled. But whenever we do the marketing, we need to consider the whole marketing environment. Right. If the marketing environment become much better, definitely we will put more resources in marketing as well.
I see. Well, mate, thank you so much for your time. You are very busy as the CEO of PCHAIN, and thank you for informing us, as we move towards hopefully a more tech-focused future for blockchain and beyond, and what it can actually do in the application sense. You've always been focused and you've always been a believer in your technology, and you're still here, mate. You haven't given up like some have. So I wish you all the very best until we talk again.
Thank you, Brad. Very nice talking with you, and likewise, thanks especially for this free interview. I know how hard of this situation, and I really respect on that.
You're very welcome, mate. I mean, we're here to help each other as we move forward and trying to really showcase what this technology can do, because that's what matters at the end, is the tech. So keep going, mate. Don't give up, and I will definitely catch up with you for an update in the future.
Thank you.
See you, mate.